just outside of the nation's capital. This park provides a great escape from the city with dark skies, sensory trails, rich history, and an entrance to the Appalachian Trail. Let's explore Sky Meadows State Park. I'm your host, Missy Rentz, and this is the Parks Podcast. I'm excited to introduce Patrick McNamara, who is the park manager at Sky Meadows State Park in Virginia. Patrick, welcome.
Thank you so much, Missy. Happy to be here.
So let's start with some stats about Sky Meadows State Park. It's located in Delaplane, Virginia. The park was created on August 27th, 1983. It is 1,860 acres. The highest elevation is 1,840 feet, which is the top of the Blue Ridge Mountains. The lowest elevation is 600 feet, which is where you enter the park. And some fun facts about the park: there's 10.5 miles of bridle trails, 22 miles of hiking trails, 9 miles of bike trails. It has access to the Appalachian Trail, and you all do a lot of conservation efforts. Patrick, I feel like I'm going back home because you are also located just a few miles from my hometown of Winchester, Virginia. So I'm really excited to learn more about the park.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks.
So Sky Meadows got its name from a former owner, Robert Hadow. Am I saying that name right? Hadow?
We pronounce it Hadow.
Hadow, okay. Because he had named the farm Sky Farm when he owned the land. But as I was reading your website and just some other research on the park, this land has changed hands a lot. Can you tell us all a little bit about the history of the land, and then probably most importantly, why Sky Meadows became part of the Virginia State Park system?
Sure. So the history of the land is quite old. I think about the John Denver song, Country Roads Take Me Home. The mountains are very old. The land kind of starts possibly 600 million years ago with the supercontinent, when modern North America collides with modern Africa. And there's this tremendous amount of uplift, created what is known as the oldest mountain range in the world. And we're so lucky to have it right here in my backyard. Throughout the geologic time, we've seen the uplift and we've seen the erosion, and the work of all of that weathering brings us to closer to what we can see today. The very first people that would have been in and around the Crooked Run Valley would have been the Native American Indians. Somewhere around the 1600s, they're primarily a hunter Sioux-speaking tribe, and they were the first inhabitants of Crooked Run Valley. The land has a long history with many different European folks. We fast forward a good bit, and at that time, Virginia is a British colony. All of the land in between the Potomac River on the northern border of the state, all the way south to the Rappahannock River, right outside your Fredericksburg, is referred to as the Northern Neck. That parcel had been subdivided, and Lord Fairfax had inherited the Northern Neck in 1719. After that, it had been purchased by Captain James Ball from Lord Fairfax, and he owns much of the Crooked Run Valley and some of the area that is now Sky Meadows State Park. When he died in 17, the property was divided among his daughter and 5 grandsons. John Edmonds, he's the next landowner. He was a captain during the American Revolution and purchased James Ball's land in 1780. His son had inherited the father's land and moved to the property with his new wife. We have an old log cabin that's on site. With a lot of our parks, there's urban legend and myth and mystery. History wasn't very well documented at that time, so it's possible that that's the era that cabin was built. Well, we're not really sure. After Isaac Settle, he was a merchant, a tavern keeper, and postmaster in nearby town of Paris, Virginia, purchased the land from George Edmonds in 1810, and that included the site of the cabin. Isaac built a house a little bit farther south, kind of our next door neighbor. It's also called Belgrove. There's another Belgrove plantation. I think it was on another one of your episodes.
We did. We have talked to them. So a different Belgrove.
Another Belgrove, yeah, popular name of the time. So he raises his family here and builds Belgrove. And 1835, one of his sons, Abner, gets married. If you come to the park, you'll hear about Abner Settle. That's where the story that we tell, the time period in which we interpret the Mount Bleak house, the stone house, that if you get to
Okay.
visit that, you'll hear about their story. It changes hands a couple times, and then eventually Sir Robert Hadow and his family, they take possession of the farm. That's around the time of World War II, and then he gave the place Skye Farm after the Isle of Skye in Scotland. He saw the rolling hills that we have here in the Crooked Run Valley, and there's a tendency to get a lot of fog through here. It reminded him much of the Scottish Highlands. That's how he ended up calling it the Skye Farm. As time goes by, eventually another family, the Scott family, take possession and they strive to really promote agriculture. They built a lot of fences, they put in a couple of ponds, and they built the dairy barn that we have, which was a pretty profitable around the 1950s. The dairy industry in Northern Virginia is really booming at that time. So we see a lot of dairy operations. Scott is the one who changes the farm's name to Sky Meadows. One of the legends says, what are we going to call it? I don't know. We got a lot of sky and we got a lot of meadows. So why not call it Sky Meadows?
Seems appropriate.
Sure, sure. You take a look out there. When I take a look out my window here, plenty of meadows, a lot of agriculture, and yeah, a big, beautiful sky. So the Scott family, they sell it to the Abrams family in the late 60s. And James S. Abrams, he becomes a partner of a company called the Piedmont Valley Corporation. And their goal is to subdivide the property and to turn it into 50-acre home sites.
Oh,
Fortunately for the park, around this time, there's the gas crisis. So there's a big recession. They're a little tenuous about going through with that plan, which allowed for local philanthropist Paul Mellon to purchase the property through one of his proxies.
okay.
So Paul Mellon, who's one of the richest people in America at that time, really big into horses, had a property not too far from here, and did not want to see the character change of the land. So his goal was to purchase the land and then donate it to the state of Virginia with the intent that it would be opened as a state park. So the original parcel of our 1,800 plus acres was 1,132 acres. He transfers it to a holding company, transfers it to the state of Virginia, 1975, and then a few years later, after some park planning and open it parks after some park planning, thinking about what the layout of the park would be, how would the public want to use their park. Then it was opened just over 40 years ago in 1983.
I think it's so important to see the evolution of that. This was private land, and it seems like most of it was agriculture. Not everybody was doing the agriculture. You mentioned the house. When you get to the park, you come through the gates and everything, and you drive up this driveway, and you're greeted with this beautiful home. So you talked about who there with the Abner family, but what would life have been like? Like, were they farmers? They're the ones that had the dairy.
Yes, the dairying came a little bit later in the 20th century, but the Settle family, Abner Settle, he gets a big section of the land in the mid 1830s. And then in the mid 1840s, that's when he officially moves in. The house looks identical to his father's house, Belgrove. So it was originally a wood with a stucco exterior. And then sometime in the 1940s, that's when they put the stone facade on the outside. So it has that stone look to it. And they were primarily farmers. So they were upper middle class, I would imagine. They also owned several enslaved people. They would have been providing a lot of the labor to really build and
Mm,
sustain this self-sustaining farm. We have some of his records of what he grew, which would included Indian corn. They would have had sheep were the most plentiful livestock that would have been on the farm. They would have grown up for or raised sheep for clothing, for their wool
yeah.
primarily. Hogs were also a pretty easy animal to keep that would have been really easy to preserve. Well preserved ham could last a couple of years. And if you've ever had a Virginia ham before, they're quite salty.
Yes.
They'll last a long time. They also could have had beef cattle as well.
Okay. So one of the things I love when you read about the park and you get into on the Virginia State website, State Parks website, they'll link to kind of the mission statements, and every decade you update what the plan is for the park. And one of the things I think is really beautiful is the purpose statement for Sky Meadows. And I'm going to read it and call out the last bit of it. So the purpose is to provide in perpetuity the opportunity for visitors to peacefully enjoy an historic Piedmont farm and natural area on the slopes of the Blue Ridge and Lost Mountain, while continuing the agricultural uses of a portion of its open land. And it's that last part about continuing the agricultural uses that I think is so interesting because it is still in use today.
That's right. So we're still honoring that tradition. So if you have the pleasure of coming to Sky Meadows, the agricultural commodity that we have many of today is beef cattle. So we lease our fields, but we're park rangers and we specialize more in visitor services and helping to connect people to nature. We're not the best farmers, so we have a pretty fantastic agreements with the Virginia Department of Corrections. They lease the property and they help to maintain the fence lines, and it's part of their agribusiness. So they use it as a revenue generating arm of the Department of Corrections.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, so they've been out here for a number of years, and we have a really great relationship with the detention center in Harrisonburg. They have a work program in which they will bring out a few probationers, and they get to learn some skills. So they'll work alongside our tradespeople and helping to maintain the park, and then they also learn some of what it would take to raise beef cattle. So with the goal of once they've served their sentences, then they can go back into the public and hopefully take some skills with them.
So when you're
So
driving down 17, which is the road that the park is on, and you see all these fields with cattle, that is part of the park.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we have each the east and west side of 17, and outside of the beef cattle operation, we have some really great partners. One of our neighbors, he was part of the Beekeepers of Northern Shenandoah beekeeping club, and he had started the beehive operation here at the park. So we still have a couple of hives here that's kind of waxed and wanes depending on staff resources and volunteer resources. But it's something that the beekeepers of Northern Shenandoah continue to support us and help us out with that beekeeping. It's something that they would have had on the farm back in the settles time. So we try to honor that as well. We still have a kitchen garden, which our friends group helped to grow and maintain, and they use that as a fundraising effort. And we're still, this last year, we put in a demonstration plot of some winter wheat. So we got our friends with the Department of Corrections. They brought out their no-till seed drill and we put in a wheat demo plot. So we'll have to see what that looks like. Wheat has not been grown on these hills in a very long time. So
Yeah.
it's an experiment. We'll see what
Yeah, it's
happens.
neat. Yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
neat to see. I do love the whole conservation effort and that it's very much alive in a lot of different ways there. And one of the two species that you guys were really working with because they were both on endangered or threatened species lists were the patched bumblebee and the loggerhead shrike. When you and I touched base yesterday, you were telling me neither have been seen for a while, which is a little sad, and hopefully they're not totally gone. But there are a lot of conservation efforts going on in the area.
Yeah, there really are. We're at this intersection where the park that you see isn't just Sky Meadows. So a lot of our neighbors have realized the benefit to conserving natural spaces as well. So a lot of our neighboring areas, they have their lands in either agricultural easements or conservation easements to preserve the landscape and the character of the historic Crooked Run Valley. And right outside of our immediate valley, we also have the Blandy Research Farm, which is through University of Virginia. They sponsor that farm. So between them and there's some fantastic folks just down 17 from us called the Clifton Institute. They're really helping to educate kind of our greater area to best land management practices, what folks can do at home to help preserve and try to keep the land as pristine condition as we can, so that way species can continue to live. Unfortunately, we through our partners, we also partner with the Virginia Master Naturalists, the Shenandoah chapter of the Virginia Master Naturalists. We have a lot of conservation-minded folks that are in the area that are big into bird watching or observing wildlife, and nobody has seen the loggerhead shrike or the rusty patch bumblebee for a number of years. It's under debate if they're still around or not. Somebody thought they had saw a rusty patch bumblebee a couple years ago because it took a picture of a bumblebee. It had the rusty patches on it, but it ended up being a different species. We're not sure, but we really do everything that we can at a park level to make sure that we're doing everything that we can for the environment while balancing that around providing recreational opportunities and keep having the agricultural land as well.
Well, I was reading that there was a planting of 1,000 American chestnut trees. So there's always this kind of awareness and growth that I think is really important. And I think it has to help that entire area of Fauquier County is all about the land. There's big estates, but it's not like you've seen the development that you've seen further west on Route 50 or in towards DC. There's just this bowl of natural beautifulness that is something that has to help the environment in that area as well.
Yeah, it's really a collaborative effort. There's some fantastic partners that we have with as you mentioned, the Appalachian Trail runs. We've got a couple miles of Appalachian Trail that run through the park. The National Park Service, they hold some of the lands with the NPS corridor through there. There's the Piedmont Environmental Council. They're a local organization that's helping to conserve areas. So they're easement holders for some of our neighbors. And then the Potomac Appalachian Trail Club, they're wonderful people to work with. We host a wavy leaf basket grass. It's a invasive species that's part of the early detection rapid response designation. So it's something that can travel really quickly and have a huge detrimental impact. So we act as a host site for them so they can come and train their people on how to identify and instruct on eradication efforts.
Oh, that's great. So let's talk about planning a trip to the park. Sky Meadows is not far from Washington, D.C. There's certainly places to go if you wanted to camp and whatnot, but it's a great spend the day, escape life, and be outside in nature. What can you do when you visit Sky Meadows?
Yeah, so we always say that the your visit to the park starts online. If you head to our website, we really have a fantastic resource. We have wonderful, hardworking people that are constantly keeping that updated. And by far, the most popular thing to do at Sky Meadows is to go take a hike. As you said, we've got over 20 miles of hiking and multi-use trails. So whether it's hiking or biking or equestrian for horseback riding, we've got a little bit of everything. We've got a really nice picnic area that's designated as an outdoor classroom with a children's discovery area. And we even have what's called the Sensory Explorers Trail. So it's a partnership. It was developed in partnership with the Virginia Master Naturalist, and it's a trail that uses your senses. It was designed for folks who are vision impaired to be able to experience the park in other sensory type of ways.
But anybody can use the sensory trail, is my understanding.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a 0.3 mile loop. It's really great for families with young kids. If you've got the toddlers who aren't quite ready for a multi-mile hike, it's a wonderful introduction hike.
One of the things I would do on hikes, I'm into mindfulness, and I would find there were some times that I was out on a hike, but I wasn't very present in that hike. And I would call them the five senses hikes, which would be the same thing, where I would
Yeah.
say, okay, for the next mile, I just have to note what I'm hearing. And so I would do that. No, I just have to note what I'm smelling. And it helped me become very present in those moments. And I think that's what you're going for here. But Now to this day, if you talk about Lava Lake in the Gallatin Mountains, I can remember the sound of the water going under the ice in the creek that was down at the bottom of the hill. It's just amazing how learning to just pay attention to different senses and really just focus on those really gives you a different experience of a park. It's a lesson for anybody that's entering into a park on a different way to experience nature.
It's wonderful to call your awareness to each stop on there. There's a rock to touch, and we talk a little bit about geology, and there's some tree rings, so you can feel that. And then we have installed a vernal pool. So we have some different models of wood frogs and spotted salamanders that you can touch. Close your eyes and imagine what would it be like to be a salamander crawling and it's so cold and you're going to go lay your eggs in that pool
Oh, wow.
at such an early point in the year.
That's neat. Now, when you talk about the hiking, it's been a little while, but I feel like there are options for different skill levels. And whether it's going down that road or veering up into the mountains, you can still enjoy a hike.
Yeah, certainly. We have some pretty fantastic views right from the parking lot that look right on the back porch of the Mount Bleak house down the valley. There really is something for everyone. You can get the full elevation change if you want to take a big loop hike or a circuit hike where you're hiking down the Boston Mill Road and you're heading up into the mountains, touching the Appalachian Trail, and or if you're looking for something more leisurely, something around the picnic area, something a little more flat in our Lost Mountain side of the park is a little bit more like the Rolling Meadows Trail. It looks just like how it sounds. It's gently rolling and you're walking around a meadow.
And you always see people picnicking there. It's a great spot under the trees by the house or grabbing a rock or something on the trails. We've mentioned the Mount Bleak house. And is there a like historical tour of this house? I know the visitor center is there, but what else can people see there?
On select weekends, we have some pretty just outstanding volunteers at the park that get involved in a number of things. We have folks that are the trailblazers that go out and help to maintain the hiking trails. We've got our bluebird monitors that go out and repair our bluebird boxes and watch to see who's nesting in each one of those boxes. And we even have volunteers that are docents that will take you on a house tour so you can see the inside of the Mount Bleak house and that historic area. So right around the Mount Bleak house, you can see a few of the other. You can see the log cabin that I was referencing earlier. There's an old, what we call the wash house. With a lot of the history, it's uncertain exactly what it was used for, but could have been used for laundry upstairs. And then the basement was dug out, and we suspect that it was used as an ice house for
Hmm,
refrigeration. We have the kitchen garden, we have the dairy building, and some other run-in sheds that would have
okay.
been used during the agricultural heyday.
So a great spot for historical interest there,
Yes.
which would be cool. So I don't want to glaze over the children's discovery area. What can we find if we're visiting that space?
It's a best of Sky Meadows for children. There's a variety of different stations that tap into the essence of what makes Sky Meadows fantastic. So we have stations like Animal Athletes, where kids can be active and think about what it would be like to be a squirrel running on a fence post. And so we've got some wood in there. We have the Barnyard Dance. So we have some big instruments that kids can go out and play and bang on. We have log cabin building devices that you can see what it would be like to be kind of one of the first permanent settlers and what would that feel like. So you can really do a whole lot right in that little loop. And we also have a kids in park track trail there as well. So if you're one of those families that always looks for the track trails, we've got one that goes through the discovery area.
And another thing that it's marketed and geared toward children, but I know a lot of people, non-children, do this. You have a junior ranger program. But what I like about your junior ranger program is it's like you've taken it a step further because you have a junior farmer, a junior historian, and a junior naturalist. What are those programs? What can a child or one who's young at heart experience with those programs?
Yes, we have some booklets that are available in our visitor center, and depending on your interest, it's the little activity book. So there's some activities just within the book, and then some prompts to get you out into the park to go find some different things. Last year produced a junior astronomer. The park is also an international dark sky park. We were designated in 2021 as a dark sky park by Dark Sky International. Once a month, we have our Astronomy for Everyone programs. They're free. You just have to pay the parking fee, but you come to the park, and the first 30 minutes, there's a junior astronomer portion. And then we have a presentation by the NASA Jet Propulsion Lab ambassador who comes out and talks a little bit about what's going on in the NASA world and what's going on out in outer space. And we'll have anywhere from a few to up to 40 members from the Northern Virginia Astronomy Club come out with their awesome telescopes. And then we have astronomy viewing into the night.
Is that done on a regular schedule?
Yeah, all of the dates for 2024 are on our program calendar.
Okay. We'll link to that on this episode page on the Parks Podcast website as well. 'Cause I feel like oftentimes when I'm at Sky Meadows, there are programs that are taking place. What other programs do you guys host throughout the year that we should make note of?
Once we get into a little bit warmer weather, usually around April through November, we'll have our first Saturday programs. You can come and you can touch and taste and smell and hear the sounds, the highlights of the park. We have a program called Settles Kettle where we'll have a volunteer in the log cabin doing an open hearth cooking demonstration. When they're in there, they'll be cooking a whole meal with chicken and dumplings or doing some cornbread and invite you in green beans and invite you in and have you sit down and feed you some tastes of what we're cooking. We'll
Cool.
have some blacksmiths doing blacksmithing demonstrations from the Blacksmith Guild of the Potomac. We'll have the house tours open, or sometimes we'll have the beekeepers out for Meet the Beekeepers so they can tell you a little bit about all the work that goes into keeping those creatures.
Wow, that's neat. And I love that there's so much to do. I'm shocked and so excited that it's a dark sky because you're so close to the city and so close to where so much is happening. So it's really a big statement that the area has gotten to the point where it can be designated as a dark sky space.
Yeah, we definitely have the darkest sky this side of DC. It's really it's the geology that plays such a integral role to that because we have the Blue Ridge Mountains to the west, and then we have the Lost Mountain to the east. Because development never made it into the Crooked Run Valley. Crooked Run Valley is designated as a historic district because so many of our neighbors have preserved their homes that date back to 18th and 19th century. We have these really dark skies. It's something that's really being threatened everywhere. Because of that, we have these, although not pristine, very dark skies that you can't see if you're in one of the counties that's closer to DC. And it's one of our resources that's highly threatened, even though we have new LED lighting that could be used more efficiently. It seems like we're losing about 1 star per year in our night sky. So one of the goals is not only to provide the recreational opportunity to view the cosmos through the telescopes, but also to let people know that there's things that they can do at home to reduce light pollution. Light pollution impacts people, it impacts the environment, and it impacts nature as well, all negatively.
I love that you're doing that. And I think I'm going to need to make a trip up for one of those events. Patrick, as we wrap up each episode, we do a speed round, and I'd love for you to just answer with the first thing that pops to your mind. What is your earliest park memory?
One of the first parks that I really remember going to as a kid, I grew up in the south suburbs of Chicago, is going to Starved Rock State Park right on the Illinois River. It's got kind of an interesting story about the Native Americans that lived there. My dad and I used to pretend or imagine what would it be like to be living in this forest and how cool that would be instead of thinking about how hard it would be.
What made you love the parks?
They're adventurous. It's a place for adventure. It's a place to let my imagination run wild. I joined an outdoor adventure club in college, and they set me on this path of working in the outdoor industry.
What is your favorite thing about Sky Meadows State Park?
Having a sense of place and a sense of home. I moved to Virginia 12 years ago. I used to work at a place in a nature center down in the Great Smoky Mountains. When I moved up here, this was one of the first places I came to, and it reminded me a lot of living down there, and it's always meant a lot to me.
What is your favorite thing to do at Sky Meadows?
As a visitor, hiking. In my role as manager, I really like park planning and getting inspired to do new things and to provide some new experiences for our visitors.
What park have you yet to visit, but it's on your bucket list, and why?
When I was probably in high school, we took a trip to visit some family out in California, and we went to Alcatraz. I got a national parks book, and I remember thumbing through that and looking at the pictures, and Mesa Verde stuck out to me as a really cool spot to visit. Just looked like the neatest place to go live, to be living in a rock formation like that.
Three must haves you pack for a park visit.
Number one, a map, because I like to go out on a hike. And if I feel like going for a longer hike, if I have a map, I can figure out how to do that. So if I'm not the best park planner, I can figure it out on the trail. Water and snacks.
What is your favorite campfire activity?
I like to just sit and stare at the fire and just watch the flames and just kind of have a moment.
That sounds beautiful. Tent, camper, or cabin?
So I've always been a tent camper, but last year we just got a pop-up camper, so we took that out. So I'll go with a pop-up.
Hiking with or without trekking poles?
Hiking without, backpacking with.
What is your favorite trail snack?
Any kind of mixed nuts.
What is your favorite animal sighting?
I went on a canoeing trip in Central Florida when I was in college with the outdoor club, and we were paddling out on the river, and kind of out of the trees, we saw an owl emerge with a snake in its talons, and snake was writhing, and the owl was just flying away wherever. It was the coolest thing.
What is your favorite sound in the park?
My favorite sound is people, the sound of people enjoying themselves in the park.
And what is the greatest gift that the parks give to us?
People come to the parks for a variety of different reasons. It's like a magical place. I think the greatest thing that the parks gives us is it gives you whatever you need. And it kind of changes depending on where you are on your life or what day you're having. But you're going to the park for a reason, and whatever that is, it's not always the same thing. So even though it could be the same place, it's going to be changing.
Patrick, thank you for joining us on the Parks Podcast. I love your stories and your knowledge about this beautiful park outside of DC.
Yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity. Come on back for one of those dark sky programs.
I definitely will. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Parks Podcast. Until next time, we'll see you in the parks. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to like and share on your favorite podcast platform. Music for the Parks Podcast is written, performed, and produced by Porter Hardy. For more information, please follow us on Instagram at The Parks Podcast or visit our website at theparkspodcast.com.